Hello, it's January 6, 2010. I've got to talk about trillions and trillions. I've got to talk about trillions and trillions. I was watching CNBC or Bloomberg, and it mentioned Paul Krugman, who is a Nobel laureate economist, and he glibly put out the number of 2 trillion. So I want to talk about that because it's, once again, these figures are so mind-blowing. I think people are just numb to listening to what's going on with the economy now. And I've got to read some excerpts from an article that I saw on Bloomberg January 5th. Krugman says economists damaged by inability to foresee the crisis. So he's saying that other economists can't foresee the crisis, which is interesting. And I quote from this Bloomberg article, economists didn't grasp the severity of the U.S. financial meltdown, and the profession is bogged down in a debate that will not remedy the situation, Nobel Prize winning economist Paul Krugman said. Quote, clearly economists failed to understand how fragile our financial system was, Krugman said in Atlanta. Okay, then I looked back at another article that was from a couple months ago. And here's another stat I saw in this article. The world's biggest banks and brokerages have reported more than 1.7 trillion in write-downs and credit losses in the financial crisis. And from what I understand so far, there's about 3 trillion of stimulus has been thrown to try to fix the situation. And Krugman is seriously suggesting that actually he gets it from another guy, and his name is Joseph Gagnon. So I got to read this quote too. This is about a month ago, I think around December 11th. And from Paul, once again. The most specific persuasive case I've seen for more Fed action comes from Joseph Gagnon, a former Fed staffer now at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Basing his analysis on the prior work of none other than Mr. Bernanke himself, his previous incarnation as an economic researcher, Mr. Gagnon urges the Fed to expand credit by buying a further 2 trillion in assets. Such a program could do a lot to promote faster growth while having hardly any downside. This is mind-blowing stuff, folks. So here's serious people, or people take these guys seriously, talking about another 2 trillion in stimulus through the Fed, buying toxic assets, which means screw the free markets and bail out the banks with another $2 trillion. Obviously, this hasn't helped the real estate prices. People are still hurting with real estate, which is the primary asset of almost all Americans, or was here in the United States. So the grim situation continues. The fact that things are kind of going on doesn't change the huge macro reality. And here we're talking about a Nobel Prize laureate suggesting seriously to add another 2 trillion to this complete and utter fiasco of dominoes. They're falling, and I guess people are getting tired of seeing the dominoes fall, so just chill, do whatever. I know, it almost, I kind of have to like rethink and rewatch and think mathematically about 2 trillion, and then it's like, oh my gosh, the crisis is still here, and what's going to happen in 2010? I've been pretty busy, but I need to make a 2010 forecast video, but we'll have a second financial crisis in 2010. I'll get more specific on that as I have more time to kind of read and digest everything. But is there an end to this debt that the U.S. is piling on? No. Right now you'll see deflation in some of the stores. I can't believe it. I saw a Cliff Bar at the store the other day here in Utah. 88 cents for a Cliff Bar. I'm going, wow, that's quite a deal. I've seen those for a lot more expensive at a lot of other stores. So is there an end to the U.S. debt? No. And like I taught in one of my videos, Ron Paul teaches the truth about money, gold money, and all that kind of stuff. Once things get out of control with a fiat currency, where the government can print and make more money and do things like this, and economists that are respected believe and suggest things like this, using monetary theory to manage the economy, eventually they collapse. And that's where the U.S. is headed. And I'm just telling you the truth now. Regardless of whatever, I don't care if like one person believes it or a bunch of people believe it, but with this printing of money and adding trillions and trillions to the deficit, it leads to collapse. And I think more in the short term rather than the long term. Así es la vida. Ciao. January 6, 2010.